Are you dreaming of the lifestyle that comes with successful trading? Well, it's time to make it a reality. Welcome to the Trading Ascension podcast, where you can discover methods to improve your trading results by focusing on your trading psychology. I'm Jason E., your guide on this path to trading improvement, self-discovery, and self-mastery. Together, we'll explore the personal and spiritual growth journey of profitable day trading. Prepare to unlock the secrets of the trader's mind and align your inner self with your personal success. Listen to this episode if you want to ascend to new levels of trading excellence and personal development. This is Trading Ascension, supporting your journey to mastering trading psychology and personal growth for consistent profits. Let's elevate your trading and your consciousness starting now. In today's episode, I want to deep dive into the idea of change. Not just surface level tweaks, but the kind of transformation that turns you into the trader you need to become so you can reach your next big goal. And I'm going to do that by focusing on a tool that's always talked about, but not as often is it explored deeply. And that's the trading journal. Hello, traders. Happy 4th of July weekend. And I don't know if I'm losing my voice, just got a little frog in it. So excuse me, I'll stop and take some water breaks here and we'll get through this. But I'm excited about this show. I want to share how I've used my journal to not just track trades, but as a powerful engine for personal transformation. And it's something that took me from barely winning a trade to getting funded. And that was before I made some of the tweaks that are getting me the results I'm currently getting, which don't want to speak about too soon to dissipate the energy from them. But I found that there's an even more powerful way to use my journal. And this isn't about logging wins or losses. It's about evolving your mindset, your habits, and identity as a trader. If you've been taking trading seriously for even a few months, you probably noticed that you've already changed in ways, right? Maybe ways you didn't expect. But was that deliberate change? Or did it just happen by chance? From my experience, using your journal deliberately is one of the fastest ways to grow and improve as a day trader. When I first started trading, my goal was just to pass the prop firm evaluation. Not initially, because I didn't know even what that was when I started, right? But once I figured out that I could possibly do this, the question was, well, where's the startup capital going to come from? And honestly, at the time, it felt impossible. I thought that if I even could pass an evaluation, it would be such a paradigm shift that the sun would rise a different way the next day. I just couldn't see myself doing it, right? Reaching that goal. It was just a stretch for where I was as a newbie. Do you ever have trouble just seeing yourself reaching a huge goal with clarity? I'd ask myself, is this even possible? Could I really start this new craft and then walk away with this lump sum of money bigger than I've ever seen? Right? And of course it's, in a prop firm and all of that, but everything changed. If you feel like you're stuck, moving backwards in your results or your ability to sustain the right actions, it's just difficult, then this episode is for you. I'd never had 150,000 in any type of account. But then I discovered the deliberate growth process that I'm sharing with you today. Structured routines, data-driven reflection. And milestone goal setting is the foundation that we're going to work through together. This episode will be almost like a coaching session, because I'm going to be telling you to do some things that'll be interactive. So get paper or get a notepad on your computer out, right? And take notes. I always suggest writing it down. But I'd never had 150 in any account, 150,000 of market leverage, if you want to call it that, whatever you want to call it. There's always negation to things, but I never had the ability to put capital towards making money, right? 150,000 in a prop account is the same amount of contracts as a live account. So it puts you in the game. And here's a warning based off that experience, right? Because it was a paradigm shift for me. And again, I've hit even bigger goals. But I want to warn you. I want to warn you to set big goals, or at least a series of meaningful milestones that are stacked up on each other. Because when you embrace change in the way that we're going to talk about today, you're going to get to your goal a lot faster than you think. So it needs to be big enough to make it count. Back in, 2021, I was less than a year into trading. And I thought this Lilo 150K account was big as I could dream. Didn't know anything about trading. And I wanted to be, I'm holding up air quotes, realistic. But here's what happened. I achieved that goal. I think it was around March 2022. I'm trying to turn my head because I keep this certificate up on my office wall. And not because it's a big accomplishment, but because it reminds me every day that the process works. So let's talk about how to harness deliberate change through journaling to become the trader and the person that you need to be. When I reached this big goal, way faster than I expected, I ran into a problem. That's why I'm giving you this caveat of set big goals. I never anticipated this. I got there so quickly and I didn't have structure in place to maintain my momentum. I found myself in the same mental space as when I started, but I was just at a higher level, right? I was confused and lost and didn't believe with, a few thousand internet brokerage account. Then I was in the same place, confused, lost, not really having clarity on the next level with 150,000 in a prop firm account. And that's when I realized something crucial. And I hope that you can learn from this misstep. And that was, a big goal isn't just a destination. It's the fuel that keeps your momentum alive. Set big goals. I know you hear this all the time, right? It sounds like a cliche motivational speaker line. But here's exactly why it matters. If your goal is too small and you hit it quickly, you might end up stuck, not knowing what to do next. It's like switching from, this is what it's like, right? When you get on this deliberate goal journey, you're switching from a BMX bike to a motorcycle. Now, if you don't have a new destination mapped out, you're going to blow past the original goal and you're going to be lost. Think about it like this. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but let's say you miss your exit while driving, right? It's no big deal. You have, just a new destination. So missing your exit, it means you're off course. And then what you might have to do is maybe you exit, circle back, or maybe you, find a side road. Either way, you're not on the path you intended. Right? And when you're going slow towards goals, that doesn't make a difference. But when you're going fast towards your goals, it makes a world of difference. So here's where I messed up. My goal wasn't big enough. I didn't have the next goal lined up. And the second point is crucial because we become our goals. I think that's what gets people in the mindset of, oh, I don't need a big goal. I'm just, happy to reach the goal and all that. I won't say loser stuff, but all that not championship mindset. And if you haven't achieved much yet, it might seem like hitting a goal quickly isn't a problem. You think, oh, I'll have time to recalibrate. But when you're implementing what I'm sharing today, you're on a rocket ship, not the pedal bike that I was talking about in the example. And when you're on a rocket ship, having no coordinates, it's a much bigger problem than being on a bicycle or a motorcycle with no map. Right? Think if you're on a rocket with no coordinates versus a bicycle with no coordinates without a map. Yeah, you're going to end up in the wrong place drastically. So let me give you another way to understand this. Because this is an important point, and I want to just have this as the foundation of the show, because having a big goal is going to fuel the journaling process that's going to create your transformation. So I want to tell you some information. 10th century BC, there was a king. His name was Solomon, right? So a lot of kings in history back then. And if we do the math, that was about 3,024 years, right? Before 2025. Now, I'm saying the time ago, 3,000 years, I want to let you know this is not new information, so we should all be aware of it. So 3,024 years ago, King Solomon was journaling, just like we do and we're talking about today. And in one of these writings, right, what we now call the book of Proverbs, there is a verse 29 and a line 18. And Solomon said, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Now, I'm not going to go down the spiritual meaning, but this relates to what I'm talking about today. So let me just talk about how I can relate this. I'm not saying this is what the verse is about, but I'm saying how it relates to a go-getter. From one of the smartest men recorded to ever live. So stay with me. It's important. Yes, it's in the Bible. But even more important, again, it was a smart man sharing wisdom. Don't get triggered if you don't like King Solomon, if he isn't your jam. Don't let that baggage block this crucial takeaway. So in this verse, the Hebrew word, at least the translation of this word, right? Because they were most likely either translating the Hebrew or speaking Hebrew at this time. And the translation for vision is chazon, right? I'm probably not saying that right, but it refers primarily to prophetic revelation, a divine communication or a guidance from God, right? So he's saying without this prophetic revelation, without this vision, people perish. Now, in ancient Israel, right, where he was at the time, there was no prophetic vision, meaning no fresh revelation or guidance for the people at the time. And when he says perished in this verse, that means cast off restraint. That means a loss of control, a loss of discipline, and a loss of moral boundaries, right? So, I know this right. It's my clutch word. We all have these words. Some say or other things, whatever. I'm always saying right. I don't know why. Anyway, without discipline and self-control, it can lead to disorder, chaos, and a decline and your vision. Sorry, I'm bumping the table here. I guess that's a new clutch word. Start saying now. This decline, it's exactly what happened to me, bro. Now, I'm not saying this is what the verse means again, right? It doesn't mean this 100%, but it 100% applies. They were having different battles spiritually, but listen, I reached this goal super fast and I lacked future vision. I didn't have a goal. I wasn't aligned with the needed self-control and discipline and the moral boundaries that I needed to maintain forward movement. All because of the lack of vision. If you don't have a big goal or a series of layered goals, you risk a loss of control, you risk discipline, and you risk losing sight of moral boundaries. What he's saying is true, and let me explain more. We've been tricked into thinking that goals are just out there. They're waiting for us. But in reality, right, by all of our experience supported by science, philosophy, even ancient texts, my own experience, right, goals don't come to us. We have to become the person who achieves those results to receive those goals. So get this, let me read this verse again and breaking it down into two parts, the problem and the solution. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So we've broken that down to possibly mean people with no fresh revelation, no spiritual vision to hold on to will lack control, lack discipline, and lack morality. Now let me define morality so you aren't lost. Morality means, by definition, a system or code of conduct that distinguishes between right and wrong behavior. Okay, so morality is a system, a code of conduct that distinguishes between right and wrong behavior. So in essence, your trading rules could be your morality in that case, right? It's a code of conduct, tells you what to do, what not to do. But then this verse goes on and says, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Now let's talk morality and the law, tying this back to trading and our goals. When I got that $150,000 account way faster than I imagined, using behavioral change methods that I'm going to share, today, and we've talked about before, but in more depth today, specifically with the journal. When I got there, I didn't have a vision ready. And guess what? I perished. I lost control. I didn't have the moral code. Why? Well, if I didn't have clarity on who I needed to become, how could I act and be that person? How could I have the morality towards the best version of myself without clarity on what that was? How could a person have a code of conduct of right and wrong behavior without vision? Now I'm talking about go-getters, not people who think they can sit because life is always moving forward. So you're either moving forward or you're going backwards. When I say, in my mind, I'm a trader that makes $1,000 a month or whatever the goal is, instantly you can see behavior that needs to be implemented. Discipline, risk management, strategy adherence, not taking random trades. And at that point, you have a code of morality to stick to those actions. It becomes simple, more simple. Simple is not always easy. Now, a trader with no goal is literally just clicking buttons. Just a monkey on a keyboard trying to create Hamlet. And I probably didn't, need to hammer this so deep, but I need you to understand, especially with the journal tools that we're talking about today, that you need big goals. You need big goals because they're going to guide you from a morality standpoint. So you have a code of conduct, actions to do to move forward in your trading. So as the foundation for today's show, if you want to level up your trading and its results, here's where to start. Set a very large goal. Grab a piece of paper and write this down. This is the foundation here. Take action. Action steps. Ask yourself, what is the furthest point in the future that you can see from where you are right now for your personal trading success? And let's just start with a dollar amount. For example, Freddie wants to make an extra $1,000 a month. Let's say, he has this vision. I'm going to get in detail here. It's a better story that way. He has this vision. He wants to lease a new car. That's $12,000 a year, right? If he's making $1,000 a month. I know that that's enough for a Porsche 911 Carrera, right? Now, don't judge Freddie. It's just his own goal. So Freddie gets clarity on the version of himself that makes $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, trading part-time. Now, for you, what is the furthest level of trading success you can see yourself achieving? What is your yearly goal? Now, since most of us let realistic, I'm holding up air quotes, and worldview shape our goals, I want you to take the number and I want you to double it, maybe even triple it. And yeah, it might cause a little anxiety, but that's because of the old programming. That's the mindset saying that we got to go find this. We have to go get that money instead of become it. That's the question saying, man, how am I going to do that? But the real question isn't, how do I do this? It's how do I become the person who does this? So write your big goal on the top of the paper. Now I want you to draw a line down the middle because we're going to create two lists. And again, this is just the foundation for our journaling practice. Now on the left side, we'll just say the left. I want you to complete the sentence. Now that I'm making, insert your goal, from day trading, it's because I am. So Freddie would say, now that I'm making $1,000 a month from day trading, it's because I am. And then he's going to list 5 qualities or habits. For example, Freddie might say, now that I'm making $1,000 a month from day trading, it's because I am disciplined in my strategy. I am an expert risk manager. I am confident in my setups. I am consistent in my routine. And I am focused during trading hours. That's what Freddie writes down there. Notice the use of the I am statement. You do want to do it that way. That's the left side of the paper. Now that you're making, insert your goal from day trading. It's because I am, and then you're going to list 5 I am qualities or habits. Combination of both. List 2. Maybe this is the right side of the paper if you drew a line down the middle. Maybe another column if you're typing. But again, I suggest writing. Use the oldest manifestation tool we have. List 2, complete this sentence. Now that I'm making, insert goal, I avoid. So Freddie would write, now that I'm making $1,000 a month, I avoid. And then you want to write the I never statements. Write at least 5 things that you no longer do as the version of yourself that has that goal already. So you're taking yourself into the vision of that future self, because we're not projecting into the future. We're bringing that into the now, right? So understand that contrast or that difference right there in perspective. We're not going out in the future. We're bringing this to the now. So in the now that I'm making insert goal, I avoid. So here's Freddie's example. Now that I'm making $1,000 a month, I avoid, number one, I never get FOMO. I never let emotions control my trades. I never stay up late when I need to trade early. I never skip my trade journal. I never over leverage my account. Okay, so you have your big goal and you have a list of qualities and habits that you are doing and a list of quality or habits, maybe thoughts, beliefs that you are not doing. And that second list can even be a self-evaluation, right? Something you're doing now that you need to eliminate could be on that second list. So now you have a vision, right? And by using these do and don't lists daily, you're building a personal moral code for trading. Use this as your compass, right? When you slip, just get back on track. Don't beat yourself up. But this is how you build momentum, which is foundational to growth. With this vision and code, you're not just showing up to the charts. You're showing up as the version of yourself who can make smart decisions and achieve wealth through trading. So now what's the fastest way to become that version of yourself and get more clarity, right? Because it may not be clear at first of what that version is. How can you do this? That's the next step we'll tackle. How to stop fighting your own success and start winning as easy as you lose, as easy as you sabotage. When I first started trading, again, kind of going back in time in my mind, I was scalping. That was the first strategy I learned. And at that point, some days I was taking 20 or more trades a day just to make $100 or $200. I would spend hours glued to the screen. Right. And I'm not saying don't do that. I think it's necessary. I don't like when experienced traders say, oh, don't spend so much time at the charts. Well, how did you get to where you are? Right. So I'm not saying that. I don't do it anymore, but I did do it. Full disclosure. I spent hours glued to the screen. And when I did the math, the profit was basically minimum wage for the time I spent there. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about getting that skill set. But my point here is I was in a full-on fight with the market. I was fighting the market. I was fighting my own habits. Every day was a cycle of recovering from losses caused by those habits, relying on pure luck to get ahead. I just hit the crossroad moment all day long. You know that crossroad moment? Should I take this trade or not? Oops, mistake. Should I stop for the day or keep going? Oops, mistake. Right? Should I lower my contract on this trade or stay the same? Well, oops, mistake. Every decision felt like, not like gambling, but like a gamble, right? And most of the time, I took the wrong road when I got to that crossroads. And now things are different. And it came from journaling. The crossroads, they still come up. I think they always will. You always have decisions to make as a trader, right? And we talked about last week, maybe the week before, how routine helps make sure that you have the mental capital to make these decisions. And they'll come up and you still have to make them. And you want to make sure that they serve your best interest. And what I found is that when I started implementing the day's tools, they started to serve my best interest more naturally. I set out when I need to. I don't chase price. I stop for the day when my rules say so with more ease. I walk away from the charts with nothing but gratitude, right? No matter the outcome. I feel good because I can control my actions. I can let the results be determined by data and statistics because What I can control, I can control. When you can't control what you can control, the pull is to control more of what you can't control. That's a bar. I control what I can. So the stress, the force, it's lowered. I don't need to add any additional pressure to my trading, and neither do you. A lot of that old stress came from, one of what I call the biggest nemesis from day traders, which is ambiguity. Not all the stress, but a lot of it was rooted in uncertainty. When you're not clear on your rules, your goals, or your process, stress pushes us into a fight or flight response. And when I look back, I realized I was literally programmed to make those mistakes. My subconscious was running the show. And the shift happened when I started to reprogram myself, building structure, clarity, and a personal code through journaling and self-reflection. And that's what allowed me to move from fighting the market to working with it, from stress to gratitude, and from randomness to getting results. So I'm going to take a moment to assume your success. If you hear a gap in what I'm describing, write it down. If you hear, oh, I'm not doing that, I should be, write it down, right? That's how you spot your next level. But I got a new saying, right? I guess it's not new, but I have a saying. The debate state is the worst trade to take. Debate state is the worst trade to take. If I'm deliberating over a trade like a grand jury on some high profile case, that's not the trade for me. I have to talk myself out of trades, never into trades. I don't do that anymore. That's, again, me personally. If I trade and it needs a lawyer to justify the entry, it's probably not the right trade. Why? Well, because we know our setups. We have a clear written plan that tells us exactly what conditions must be present to enter a trade. Think of it like searching for a close friend in a parade, right? You know their face so well from experience and repetition that you can spot them instantly in a crowd. Especially when they're trying to be seen. They're not hiding, they're not ducking, not wearing sunglasses. And that's what happens when you only take your setup, review your data, and study your best entries over and over that you've taken in a live account. It does take time, but there's no shortcut, right? It's just experience, one of the crucial foundations of better day trading. So you have this written plan for how to react to price action in the market. That includes you know how to enter the market, how to trail your stop, how to add to the position, how to and when to take profits, what circumstances require you to exit, right? So you have the 3 factors of a strategy. It's like watching that parade circling the block, right? You're always looking for your people, your setups, as the parade walks around the block. They walk in front of you, they circle back around the block, come back again. And you know your people, your strategy, because you've studied it, because you haven't switched strategies without, data-driven reasons. At this point, with that strong foundation, you have what most traders never build, and that's a true vision for their trading actions. And again, just to be clear, this vision has 3 parts. It has system visions, right? And that's the clarity on the actions that you need to take in the market. It has the self vision, clarity on the person you need to become to reach your goals. Then it has this execution, where you're showing up to the market knowing exactly what to do, what not to do, both as a trader and a person. So you have this trading strategy, right? Let's just build this out. I want to give you all the pieces here. Trading strategy is a clear plan for entry, trade management, and trade exiting. Then you have a trading plan. A trading plan is your strategy plus a written risk management plan and a process for capturing market experience via data. And data comes in two forms: chart statistics, performance metrics, and your personal trading journal. That's the foundation. Now, let's answer the question, how do I use my journal to become a better trader? Well, here's how. We use a method similar to dialectics, right? And dialectics is a process of change where growth is realized by confronting and learning from the opposite. This is something that Hegel teaches, right? Hegel was an old philosopher. And this is what you want to do. For the next 5 days, I want you to journal everything in your life. You need at least one day, but do it for 5 days because you're going to miss stuff on the first day as you're building this habit. This is what you're going to do in your journal, right? This is what your entries should look like here on out. Your actions and thoughts related to those actions. When a thought pops up and you see it, because most of our thoughts we don't see, the number of thoughts we see compared to thoughts that are in our mind but not noticed by us, it's a staggering number. So when you do see a thought, I want you to add it to your journal. And you can timestamp this. So you're writing your actions from when you wake up. Maybe go to when you go to sleep or go to when you're done trading. You're going to spy on your natural self. Log the time you wake up in the morning. Jot down your morning routine. Capture every action you take throughout the day. Record any thoughts you notice, no matter how small. A little cumbersome, right? It's going to take some time. It's going to pull you away from things. It's going to be worth it. So, example, right? You might say, today this is later in the day, you got your morning routine and all that, but you might write, today I took my first trade, felt a little fear. Later on, lost the trade, walked away for 10 minutes. While making coffee, I thought about how I used to slip on the ice during my first year of hockey. You're just putting down all the randomness that happens. Your goal is to log your life, ideally for a week, right? And this is indefinitely, but a week before we go to the next step, right? This is how you want to journal. This is what you should be putting in your journal for this transformation. Now, if you're comfortable, I've never done this, but just a suggestion, try video journaling and then think out loud. This was a tip I got from a past guest. But again, I've never done it myself. But if you like being on camera, record yourself and just talk out loud. And you can review it. As long as you don't act like you're being recorded on a reality show and you're being natural. The point is we're observing, we're spying on our natural self. If you're like me and you prefer to write, remember that writing is the original manifestation tool. When you write, you bring thoughts into reality and you create a nucleus for attraction and growth. So if this is new to you, and you don't journal, you might need a couple days to get a lot of information. If things have been happening under your radar, under your conscious mind, it's going to be a challenge for you to get to the front line, right? Where things are actually happening. You might be used to just getting orders from your brain. So maybe instead of being a person that thinks, I'm going to experience hunger soon, you might currently be a person whose brain just says, hey, go get a sandwich. It's okay. It's going to take some work. So moving to that front line, to the production floor of your life, it's just going to be a habit to build. So you can timestamp this show right here. I don't know. This would probably be around the 40-minute mark, we'll say. And you can come back for the second part if you want to focus on this. Take a few days, take a week to do it. Come back to this mark here. And it's going to be probably over 40 minutes because I think in the timestamps they count the show intro. But right around here, come back in a few days. Get some page 2 or a week of self-observation. And do what you can to implement this new routine. So, do that first. And let's talk about part 2. So if you're at this point and you have logged at least a day of your life, you have written to the best of your ability the actions you took and the thoughts that stood out, the hard work's done, right? It's short after this, especially, the show's almost over as far as me even explaining this, but you've done the hard work. Congratulations to you. This is what you want to do. Let me explain this because it's important if you want to get better trading results. Got a day or two or more of self-observation, the actions you took, and the thoughts that stood out. Now, by doing that, it accomplishes a few things. First, it practices mindfulness. How often are we paying this much attention to our life at that level? In science, it says that 95% of human actions are triggered in the subconscious. And you got to think about it. With technology and the way life is nowadays, when we're fast moving, even that 5% of conscious thought is a stretch. So kudos to you. Great job for being more alive for some time by journaling and observing. The second thing it does is it provides a more detailed observation of how you show up. And this equates to how you created your current reality. Why? Well, based on results you have in your life, everything, the things you have, your current relationships with other humans, the love you share, the conflicts you have, all of that is created by the person whose days look like your days did. And we speak on this a lot. Life creation is no mystery on earth. It's been known that thoughts create beliefs acted on over time create character. The former guides and filters not only what we perceive, but our actions and the sum of those actions over time, which creates everything in our reality. And because that our reaction and our filtering of thoughts is such a power that we can control, the not having access to the thought bank, maybe not having free will and the debit experiments we talked about, all of that is secondary based on the power that we do have. And this is something that blew my mind. People who try to do life-changing affirmations through deep brain work and practices, they often have distortion and blocks of information. For example, it's a guy in my coaching class, and he didn't believe that he could make money passively. Not a trader, just a business guy. And when our coach recorded an affirmation saying that he could, his mind was literally distorting it. He said it sounded like another language. His wife would speak the words to him. He would look at her, see her mouth moving, but he wasn't able to comprehend the sentence. He was like, it's like Swedish or something. And then the same thing happened when the coach spoke the words. His subconscious mind just didn't believe it. Now, I'm leaving out the details. This was a controlled session, not just a normal conversation. But here's my point. It happened and it's common. It happens a lot. It happened to me. If I wasn't doing this type of work, right, this type of coaching, I would have no clue that this was possible, right? It's weird. It's weird how much the subconscious mind does. And we talk about it in neuroscience, right? I've talked about it before on here, how the natural functions of the brain are the first thing that happens that we're unaware of because there's so many bits of information coming in as the brain deletes information. And then it distorts information. And it distorts information based on current beliefs and narratives. And then it generalizes information so it can find a home in the current belief system in some existing strongholds. And that's not just, decades of science. This is what we're living every moment. So what you're seeing on paper is a deeper look at the results that you've created in your life. See it as that. What are you seeing? What are you seeing in your journal? And what you're seeing there is exactly the same as your trading results, your relationships, and all of that stuff on average. So what do? We have to get to different results, which means we have to change beliefs and change actions tied to those beliefs. So beliefs and actions have to be changed in pairs. But sometimes we don't know the pair. We might be like, oh, this action, but I don't know the thoughts behind that action. Or this is what I believe, but I don't know what that's causing me to show up as. But the good news is, if we address one, eventually the other one will expose itself because they're tied together. For example, right, if you try to change the action of a thought form, right, it may push against you for a few days. And then you can see and not initially, but then you can see the actions that help sustain that belief. They start to illuminate themselves when you push on one, right? It's like they're hiding. It's like, hey, what are you doing changing that habit? Don't you know that you're not worthy? You're like, oh, that's the thought. That's the thought that was associated with that action. So in that coaching block I was talking about, he was able to find the resistance and change that resistance. And this resistance that you might face, it doesn't come initially, right? Your body can't block every thought you get or every habit you try. It only comes when you start to get consistent, when your mind's like, oh, he's not bullshit. He's really trying to change. And that's when the course correction kicks in and says, whoa, get back on track. Don't you know you believe this? So to get different life results geared toward trading, you have to be radical in changing whatever leads to today's results, and then you got to stick to it. So you observe what's logged and you compare it to the results that you have. Then you make changes to the thoughts and the actions that could be in the direction of more powerfully tied to the person that you want to be. And when you illuminate these, you're going to add them to the list that we created earlier. Add them to the do and don't never list. Has to be radical change, but not radically changing. Right now, I'll explain that in a moment. It's an important point. So after you start to catch behavior in real time, then you can start to filter out those habits. And once you start to do it, it's going to start being more, you start to be more aware of more and more, right? After I started journaling like this, I was in the gym one time. I was doing calf raises during my workout. And I sat down to reset my rest timer and write down log the set. And then I felt unaligned with the healthy version of myself by sitting down. I immediately stood up, right? And for a long time, I've been sitting down, writing down the next set. But when I had a newfound clarity, week or so back from that moment, about a new healthier version of myself, that action wasn't aligned anymore. So now I'm more aligned in thought and in action, not based on others, the world standards, but myself and the work I'm doing with myself. That's what this type of journaling is going to do. We are not as much as our own person as we like to think. We've been indoctrinated. We've been programmed. This is the matrix. But there's another path, right? Think of chemistry experiments. I always like to talk about chemistry because you can see things going in and then you can see what comes out. I never was great in chemistry, but I always loved it. Probably one of my biggest passions that I just sucked in. I didn't do well in that class at all in college. But in a chemistry experiment, if you want radically different results, a lot of the things that you put into it, we're just talking about like mixing potions. If you want radically different outputs, you probably don't want many or any of the same ingredients to go in. Think about it this way. It's not about changing, getting the trading results you want. It's not about making a better cake. It's about now, I'm cooking a pie. All the ingredients should be different. This means most of your actions should be different to get different results. And this is from a life of not just goal accomplishment, but also studying the process. From that experience, I know that we underestimate the change in input required to get different output. We think tweaking our life will get drastic results, while thinking at the same time, right, the contrary belief that a different person is who's the one who's going to get those results, right? That makes sense. The person who wants to lose weight, let's say they want to drop 15 pounds by exercise. They think that to get on the path. But then when they do it and they look back, they see that they actually had to become strong enough to skip meals, educated enough to learn a new diet, then consistent enough to hit the gym, right? Stay on track daily. I'm telling you, the change is radical in practice. I understand we get on the path with small actions, but if you embrace deliberate change, you can change and quicken the process, especially in this new energy, right? This 2025 and forward moving energy. So change is radical. Ice isn't water. So we have to look at it a different way because change is radical. But if you fail, you will fail if you try to make radical change. So let me explain that now. Change is guided by sustainability. We're looking at changing thoughts and habits, and how many thoughts and habits you can implement into change because you spotted them by self-observation in your journal is based on sustainability. Change thoughts and habits as fast as you can based on what you can sustain as far as the new habits without falling backwards, without going back into old habits. You have to have repetition of large amounts of change, right? In large amounts of change, I should say. So as you're focused on implementing this new thought, hammering in this new thought, hammering in this new behavior daily, based on new ideas and beliefs that you're working on. You have to implement as much as you can, but it has to be based on what you can sustain. If you're trying to overhaul your life, but you're falling backwards, doesn't do you any good. So we're adding new mindsets that support new habits without reverting back to old thoughts. So we're going to implement a few at a time, but quickly seek to implement more, guided by what's sustainable, what's maintainable. If you have this unsustainable new habit, it's going to be kind of thwarted by rebellion. And if you start to feel this rebellion pushing against yourself, then it's not time to stop doing it. It's time to not add more. If you're hindered by, this is another sign, if you're hindered by sickness, that means don't add more habits. Tiredness, fatigue, all signs that you're at a threshold. Don't stop what you're doing. Just don't add more. Got to go a little bit longer at that level before you start to add more change. And it gets a lot more complex than I'm explaining, but this is going to get you on the path. And the rest you're going to discover by being on the path, because you can't see what's on the other side of a door until you step forward and you open the door. So you got all the tools that you need, and all of you have my email. I'm going to revamp the website soon, so you'll have a lot more of these tools and downloads throughout July 2025. But listen, your millionaire day should not resemble in any way your $100,000 day. Scaling isn't about doing more of the same. That's pretty much a myth. There's a saying, what got you here won't get you there, right? And I learned that from people making, in some cases, $40 million a month in their business. Now, a lot of us think that you can just do more of the same to get better results, but it doesn't always work that way when you're trying to quantum leap. Now, if you're just trying to get a little bit more, a few percentage more, double your results, maybe max, more of the same could get you there, but not really, because that's not including the thought change. So as we look at it holistically and we're exploring it from a deliberate change perspective, we know that it has to be drastic. And what got you here won't get you there. You have to be a different person. So ultimately, the goal is mindfulness. Mindfulness. You're getting out of the autopilot that you wrote down that's creating your current life, and you're maximizing your time. So as you're journaling, why am I doing this? Why am I journaling like this? Well, you're trying to get mindfulness so you can start maximizing your time. I realized that I was delaying long-term freedom for short-term freedom. And that showed up in the form of the actions I was taking that I started seeing in the journal. Distraction, even breaks. So the more regiment you have toward one point in time and space, the faster you're going to get there, because you'll be the person who is already there. Now, when I say regimen, that doesn't mean rigid. When I'm sacrificing freedom now for future freedom, that means that the actions are all aligned and not all over the board. You know that Bruce Lee quote where he said, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. By observing your current thoughts and actions and tying that to the life that you created, you can start to shape your thoughts and actions towards one point in space and time. And let's just say it's a kick. Let's say every journal day is a kick. Was today's kick in the same spot as yesterday's kick? Were those kicks in the exact spot that you want those kicks to be, right? If you're kicking a tree. So in this episode, I want to recap. Let's get out of here. In this episode, we explored like the true nature of change. Not just these minor tweaks, but this deep transformation that's, I believe, required to reach your next big goal. And then we focused that on the trading journal, and not in a way of a simple logbook, but as a powerful engine for personal and professional growth, right? So we set up the foundation of that. We talked about how to take our journal entries moving forward, because there's power in goals, right? We're setting these ambitious, and even intimidating sometimes goals. But that's essential because small goals can leave us stuck or unprepared for the next level, lacking that vision and that morality. Big goals, they fuel momentum, they provide direction, and they help us avoid the trap of complacency. So we need that vision, we need that discipline. And that's just drawing from ancient wisdom, because like Solomon said, lacking vision leads to a loss of discipline, self-control. But that clear vision is going to be supported by a personal code of conduct, and it's going to keep you aligned with the best self and your trading objectives. So in practical application, we were talking about hands-on journaling exercises. So let me recap 4 parts of that. First, it was like define your biggest trading goal, and then triple it or double it because it's probably not big enough. List the qualities and habits of the trader who achieves that goal, then list the behaviors and habits you must avoid. And you're going to use this list daily to build your personal code and maintain momentum. And then from that momentum, again, dialectic. I didn't talk about Hegel as much as I did because a little short on time to do that. But he talked about using this personal struggle, and we're in struggle is where opportunity lies. So these personal stories that we see in our journal, they're going to illustrate our journey from chaotic, stressful trading to disciplined, gratitude-based trading. And for me, that shift came from reprogramming the habits and thoughts through consistent journaling and self-reflection. So we're going to be journaling for change. So you learned today a method to log your actions and thoughts. And before you start changing, at least a week, right? Maybe a day, depends on how much content you're able to be aware of. But you're gaining mindfulness and clarity about your current patterns. And this self-observation is the foundation for radical change. And again, this radical change and the speed of that is based on sustainability. Sustainability over speed is going to be key, because I know you're hungry to be this new version of yourself. So am I. So change should be as rapid as it can be, but you have to be able to sustain it. You have to implement new habits and beliefs in a manageable increment, focusing on consistency and self-awareness rather than overwhelming yourself. Because overwhelming kicks you into fight or flight. You might just sit down on the road and not, analysis by paralysis. We don't want that. True growth isn't about doing more of the same. It's about becoming a fundamentally different person, aligned with your vision. So mindfulness and intentional routines are key to long-term freedom and success. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you for listening. And here's to being the hero of your story. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Trading Ascension Podcast. I hope you're gaining valuable insights to support your day trading journey. If you found value today, I'd appreciate it if you could follow me on Instagram, Real Trading Ascension, subscribe on YouTube, and give this episode a like. Your support helps me grow and bring you even better content. Be sure to visit tradingascension.com for free resources, exclusive tips, and tools designed to elevate your trading. I'm inviting you back. Join me in the next episode as we continue to ascend together. Until then, keep ascending, stay mindful, and remember, your journey to mastering trading psychology and consistent profits starts with your commitment to personal growth. Yeah.